Welcome to ID Lesson Magazine. So there's two parts of this. The first part, I want you to find a magazine and redo the cover. The second part is you're going to make one spread for the magazine. You're going to have to find the content, the text for this spread from either Medium or New York Times. So this is Elephant Arts publication. I would take all the content from this first page. The name, the title of the art of the magazine, Autumn 2018, all of the copy would need to be on your interpretation of this magazine. You have to redesign the look of the image. I want something different than what's here. Also, your choice of type needs to be different than what the magazine. How do you interpret your idea? Now I have this one. I have cooking. We love to cook in our house. So if I use this, I would have to take all of this copy and make sure it's on. So these cooking books ones has a lot of copy and text. But I don't have to keep the frame. I don't have to keep the art. You're going to create your own art. You just need to choose one favorite magazine that you take the copy and inspiration from. So that's your cover. And the back, you can do whatever you want to do. Maybe some of what you're doing here on the front kind of wraps around to the back. Most of the time, magazines just have ads. All right, so that is the cover. While you're looking at magazines, start looking at the spreads. The spreads would be the inside articles. So how is the pages laid out? How would you set up a page? So these are all building ones because they're all about architecture. Is there a lot of copy? Is there a small amount of copy? So after you do all of your research, picked a magazine for the cover, looked at a couple of spreads to inspire yourself, then let's get started by downloading the template provided. All right, the first thing you should do is make sure you download that file that I've provided, the magazine template. It's going to provide you with some different options for your magazine. Double click on it and it should open up. Now you're going to change all the fonts, but this is what it looks like. This pink, if you are missing fonts. And we're not going to activate because we're just buying our own once you decide which of these templates to use. So let's just hit close, and then I'm going to go to pages. Now there's two lines here. They're the same exact document, but one's at a smaller size. Now you need to make a decision. Do you want the document to be 7.5 by 9.5? Or would you like it to be letter size, which is 8.5 by 11? Once you make that decision, we want to get rid of one of these. So I want to delete the alternative. I'm going to go with the smaller size. So I'm going to delete this other alternative and hit OK. All right, one more thing I'd like to show you is that in Pages, you have a Master A and a Master B. They went with the two different sizes. So if you're not doing the letter, you'll need to delete it just so that you don't have any confusions. And you can just delete Master Spread, B Master Letter. If you're going to do the letter, you do the reverse and delete the other one. All right, first page that you see is your cover. Remember to look at your magazine and put in the copy and then put in an image. I'm not going to go into depth with this. I think you guys can figure this out. I need you to show me some inspiration from the magazine that's your favorite. And then whatever you do on the front, think about how you can wrap it around to the back. Please be creative with this part. Next is all of these spreads in the middle. I want you to go through each spread and look at them after you've done the research of what article you want to use and see which one of these spreads might be helpful. So this only has text layout for you, and you can change and adjust this. But I thought it's a good way to see some sort of start on a page layout. Some have a lot of copy, some have little copy, and then this is the last page. So when I look at this, I'm thinking I might take one with a lot of copy to show you. So I'm just going to show you one. You're only going to have to do one, and then you have to find your own article and decide which one of these templates to use. So I'm going to select all the ones that I'm not going to use and delete them. If you decide to change your mind, all of a sudden you can always go back and get the original file from the site and add a different spread. I also encourage you, if you need extra credit, to do more than one spread. Now make sure you have your article ready for this. So right here you see these kind of yellow lines. That might be the only thing you see if you hit W. Those are called baselines, and that's where the baseline type, the bottom of the type, will sit, and it keeps it very organized and accurate as it moves through the page, making sure all the alignment sits correctly. Under View, if you want to get rid of that, you have to go to Hide Baseline Grid. You also would have to go to View, Grids and Guides, and we want to show guides here. If I click on this, now you see what we're familiar with, right? That margin, the two columns that are here. Now remember, you can always go up, we've talked about this layout, and create guidelines. So if you want, I've created more or less, you can add and adjust. Make sure you remove existing, and again, that you're putting it on the masters. One other thing that I want to show you is I kind of moved everything around and adjusted everything when I use this template. And you are expected to modify it to fit your article. Change the orientation of the paragraph style to left justified, but you can keep it centered, or you can do right. You can do justification. We kind of went over these things. So think about different ways that you could use that. You can scale down the size of it or need to because of your article and having enough space. This is a 2-column. It's actually one single text block, but it's been created as a column. So you can come up here. Again, make sure you have that control bar up here, and you can see that there's these multiple lines. This is multiple columns. It allows you to create more than one column structure. And this is handy if you have all of a sudden a lot more copy than you expected. You can create another type box and then add more columns, like I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to move this one over here. I'm going to drop it on this side. I'm going to come and get the box, and I'm going to close it, which is going to create the type flow that I need to create a new box. I'm going to go up to the corner and I'm going to click in. So it's just going to automatically make one box, type box. And I'm going to want to make sure 2 things happen when creating this box from this. Is one, that I know the size of this type box I'm copying from. What is important is I want to make sure that the width is correct. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to actually copy the width. I love the fact you can copy and paste for everything. So I'm going to select this type box. I'm going to go back and I'm going to go into width and make it consistent. And it was aligned to the edge, so I'm just going to line it up to the edge. And I'm going to need all of it. And then remember it is single, so I can go back to my numbers of columns and I can click upwards to add more columns. So now I would just add all of my text in and continue to adjust and add more if I needed to. The other quick thing I wanted to show you is if you're adding images in, you might want to use the frame box. Is that, remember, you can drag that box if you're going to have 2 columns and click the arrows on your keypad to create 2 image boxes. Paragraph styles and character styles. We've talked about these. In this template, they have some that are already created. Please look them over. I don't want you to use them, but it's nice to look and see what they were thinking was important to put in paragraphs and what they thought was important to call out in character styles. As you can see, character styles, it's the smaller, more specific ideas of size, cap height, and color, where paragraph gets into maybe the font style, the font size, more of the overall feel of it. So let's just start off by making sure that we delete everything that pre-exists. And again, I didn't do this for you because I really wanted you to kind of look it over and see how they used it for this template. Here's a quick look of my interpretation of the story I found in New York Times. So I picked this story, Books for Budding Art Lovers. So it's children's books that artists have created, and it's really funny. The Joe brothers, when I lived in Chicago, I lived and worked in their building. So I found this article, I flowed in the text, I took the pictures from the article and placed it throughout these 2 pages. Be careful with the size and the amount of copy. This was very tight to make sure it fit in. It's a big block of text. So how do you make this text a little more interesting and more dynamic? I added some metallic, I added colors on the high points of talking about the actual pieces of art that's in the book. So if there's ways of kind of enhancing a block of type, do so. This is my cover interpretation. Remember that you're supposed to use all the elements for the cover, but it's not supposed to be like the cover. So I took all the text, I just put in a new image and kind of changed and found interesting typography I thought would be dynamic for the front page. And then the back image section of that street, I thought they were relatable. So how do you relate the front to the back? Last thing to cover is just clarifying again that you must set up your paragraph style and your character style. Make sure that you have selected it and made a style for it. So that was my header. This is my subheader. I created an art caption. I created body copy. And then for my characters, I only did a few things. I did the titles of my books. Should all be under that. And then any of my italic should also be there. And that's it. I will again be checking those, so please make sure that you did create paragraph and character styles. All right, so when you believe you're all done, you first want to go to your pages, make sure you have everything that you're supposed to have for this assignment. That will be your cover, that will be your spreads with a story you picked from medium.com or in the New York Times. Make sure it's a small amount of copy. It makes it harder. If there's no images available, please make your own or find them online. They must be a high-res image. And finally, the back page. So this is all you need is 4 pages. After you've made sure that your document is correct, the next thing I want you to do is check your links. Make sure they're all linked. And then you're going to go, because this was a template, we should definitely check before we save this as a package file if there's other fonts connected to this. So let's find fonts, and we want to make sure it's only the fonts that we are actually using. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to change, and the Cooper I did use, and this one we could also change to Helvetica Canoe. So you really want to make sure that only the ones that you actually used are in here. Done. Then we can go and create a package file, and you want to look and see for errors, right? So this looks good. There should be no fonts missing. And then we have an error about the color. We've talked about RGB. RGB is fine for the image colors. And then we can just hit package. We must save it. So we're going to save it. I'm going to save it to the desktop. So here you're going to save it correctly. I'd write magazine, but I'm just going to go quickly and put my last name on it. And then there's a couple of things that we need to make sure are clicked on here, right? So a copy of the linked graphics, yes. An updated link graphics to the package, yes. And then a PDF. If you are using really odd fonts that I might not have, remember to outline your fonts and then hit package. Now this should create a PDF and it should give me the InDesign file and all of your images that you collected, and double checking it before it's sent to me. So I have, make sure it's titled correctly and links, and even open up that PDF and just make sure that the PDF has all the images. So you can see right now it's not creating it as a spread, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So next you would go to File, and we're going to go back to that Adobe PDF, or you're going to go to small size. We're definitely going to put this into that folder that we just created. I'm going to save over it. And the only thing that we're doing is, see where it says pages here, we're making it into spreads. So only things that are spreads will be created as a spread. The cover and the back will still be pages. And then everything else should be correct. We did have crop marks and bleeds, and then we can hit export. Now we can see that I have the full spread, which is what I want to see. I want to see how it looks all the way across, and then your back page. Last final thing is make sure that you compress it so it can actually be submitted by Saturday. Can't wait to see what you're going to do.